Part 1. The scene where I was supposed to cry. I woke up in a car that smelled like rain, leather, and expensive perfume. For 3 seconds, I had no idea where I was. Then I saw the iron gates. Tall, black, crowned with gold initials. Harrington Ancestral Estate. That was when I realized I had woken up inside the worst novel I had ever read. The car rolled through the gates, past rows of cypress trees and white stone fountains. At the end of the drive stood a mansion so large, it looked less like a home and more like a museum built to intimidate anyone who needed love. I knew this house. I knew the chandelier in the entrance hall. I knew the portrait of the first Harrington chairman above the marble staircase. I knew the dining room where the real heiress would be humiliated on her first night. I knew the lake path where she would be accused of pushing the fake daughter into the water. Most importantly, I knew how this story was supposed to end. The original real heiress, Nora Ellis, was found at 19 after a hospital record audit revealed she had been switched at birth. She returned to the Harrington family desperate for love. She cried when her biological mother did not hug her. She glared at the fake heiress, Celeste Harrington, who had enjoyed 19 years of wealth, affection, and status in her place. She asked whether Celeste would move out. That one question ruined her. Celeste cried, "Mrs. Harrington fainted. Mr. Harrington called Nora ungrateful. The oldest son, Adrian Harrington, decided his biological sister was vulgar and cruel. From that moment on, every trap in the novel was built on one idea. Nora was jealous, unstable, and hungry for a life she had not earned. By the end, Nora lost her reputation, her scholarship, her foster mother, and finally, her life. The novel called it justice. I had called it lazy writing and thrown my phone across the bed. Apparently, fate took that personally. Miss Ellis?" The driver's voice pulled me back. I looked down at my hands, slender fingers, a cheap canvas bag on my lap, a pale blue school cardigan, no jewelry except a thin silver ring on my thumb. Nora's body, my body now. The driver stopped in front of the mansion. "We have arrived." In the original plot, Nora stepped out, trembling. She clutched her bag like a shield and stared up at the mansion with wounded awe. By the time she entered the hall, everyone already saw her as a poor girl overwhelmed by wealth. I took a slow breath. If the story wanted me to enter as a victim, that was the first rule I would break. I opened the car door before the driver could come around, stepped out, adjusted the strap of my bag, and looked at the mansion as if I were reading a building inspection report. Large, cold, expensive to heat, not worth crying over. The front doors opened. 3 people stood inside. Victor Harrington, my biological father, wore a charcoal suit and the expression of a man trying to remember how grief was supposed to look. His wife, Helena, stood beside him in cream silk, one hand pressed to her chest. She was beautiful in the fragile, curated way rich women became when they learned tears looked better if the lipstick stayed perfect. And between them stood Celeste. Celeste Harrington, the fake heiress, the beloved daughter, the original heroine of everyone's pity. She wore a soft pink dress and no obvious jewelry, which was deliberate in the novel. Celeste's entire first impression was built around looking like she had chosen simplicity out of kindness. Her hair fell over her shoulders. Her eyes were already wet. She held Helena's arm as if she needed support to survive my arrival. The housekeeper announced me. "Miss Nora Ellis has arrived." Helena took one step forward. In the original plot, this was where Nora whispered, "Mom," in a broken voice. Helena would freeze. Celeste would cry. the first wound would open. So I lowered my bag, bowed politely, and said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Harrington. Good afternoon, Mrs. Harrington." Silence. It spread through the marble hall like cold water. Helena's face tightened. Victor's brows drew together. Celeste's tears paused at the edge of her lashes. Suddenly unsure whether they were still needed, Victor spoke first. "Nora, we are your parents." "Biologically, yes," I said. "Emotionally, we are strangers. I think it would be dishonest and uncomfortable to pretend otherwise in the first minute." Helena's eyes reddened. "You do not want to call me mother?" There it was, the soft trap. If I said no, I was cruel. If I said yes, I gave her intimacy she had not earned and handed Celeste a stage for heartbreak. I kept my voice calm. "I would rather use a name honestly than a title performatively." Victor stared at me. Celeste lowered her head. "Sister Nora," she whispered, "are you angry with me? If my staying here makes you uncomfortable, I can leave. I never wanted to take anything from you." Perfect. Word for word. In the novel, Nora exploded here. She asked why Celeste had not already left if she knew she had taken another person's life. That was the first screenshot-worthy line people used against her for the next 100 chapters. I looked at Celeste for a long moment. Then I asked, "Where would you go?" She froze. "What?" "You said you can leave. I am asking where you would go." Her mouth parted. No answer. Because it had never been a real offer. It was a knife wrapped in sacrifice. I turned to Victor and Helena. The hospital made a mistake 19 years ago. Neither Celeste nor I caused it. If this family has the resources to support 2 daughters during a transition, then there is no reason to turn our first meeting into a competition for who gets to be more pitied. Helena looked stunned. Victor's expression became unreadable. Celeste's fingers tightened around Helena's sleeve. I continued. "What legally belongs to me should be corrected. What emotionally belongs to Celeste cannot be transferred by announcement. We can discuss residence, school, documents, and public statements through clear arrangements. There is no need for anyone to perform self-sacrifice in the foyer." The housekeeper's mouth twitched. Only for a second. But I saw it. Celeste saw it too. Her eyes sharpened before she lowered them again. "I only wanted you to know I do not hate you," she said. "That is good," I replied. "I do not know you well enough to hate you either." Helena made a soft sound, as if the sentence had hurt her. Maybe it had. People who live inside emotional theater often mistake plain boundaries for violence. Victor finally cleared his throat. "You are more composed than we expected." "I had a long drive." That was not an answer. But rich men like Victor usually accepted calm vagueness when they did not know how to challenge it without looking rude. He gestured toward the sitting room. "Come in, we should talk." As I followed them inside, a cold mechanical voice sounded in my head. Plot node detected. First family reunion. Original Nora Ellis must display emotional instability and direct hostility towards Celeste Harrington. Current deviation, 12%. Penalty warning, reduced family sympathy. I almost laughed. So there was a system too. Of course there was. The original author had already overused every trope. Why not add a plot monitoring system to make sure I suffered correctly? I lowered my eyes so no one would see my expression. Reduced family sympathy? How terrifying. In the original story, family sympathy had been worth exactly nothing. Part 2, the dinner where everyone waited for me to fail. The sitting room conversation lasted 40 minutes and taught me 3 things. First, Victor Harrington loved the word arrangement. He used it whenever he wanted control to sound reasonable. Second, Helena Harrington loved the word delicate. The situation was delicate. Celeste's feelings were delicate. The public announcement had to be delicate. My transfer into the family had to be handled delicately, which apparently meant everyone would tiptoe around Celeste while expecting me to be grateful for a bedroom. Third, Celeste did not interrupt once. That was her talent. She did not need to speak often. She only needed to tremble at the right moment, lower her lashes at the right name, and make everyone else imagine what she was too noble to say. Victor explained that I would stay in the East guest suite until everyone adjusted. My legal name would be updated after the family issued a statement. My school transfer would be arranged after the term break. For now, I should rest, learn the household, and avoid unnecessary public attention. In the original plot, Nora heard guest suite and broke down. "I am your real daughter," she cried. "Why am I being treated like a visitor?" That line became another nail in her coffin. Helena cried for 2 chapters. Victor called Nora impatient. Celeste offered to give up her room, and everyone loved her more. So I said, "The East guest suite is fine." Helena blinked. "It is? I mean, you do not feel wronged?" "I have never lived here. A guest room is an accurate description." Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. He did not know what to do with me either. Good. By dinner, the entire household seemed to know I had not cried. Servants moved with careful curiosity. A maid almost dropped a water glass when I thanked her by name after reading the small tag on her uniform. The butler, Mr. Sloane, paused when I asked where I should sit instead of assuming. The dining room looked exactly as described in the novel. Long table, white roses, silver candlesticks, portraits watching from the walls like ancestors waiting for fresh disappointment. Celeste sat at Helena's right. Adrian Harrington, the oldest son, arrived 5 minutes late in a dark blue suit. He was 26, already a vice president at the family company, and in the novel he became Celeste's fiercest defender. He barely glanced at me before kissing Helena's cheek and asking Celeste whether she had eaten lunch. Celeste smiled softly. "I was too nervous." Adrian's gaze shifted to me. There it was. The first measure of blame. I picked up my water glass and took a sip. The second son, Miles, arrived next. He was 22, still in university. Charming in the way people become when consequences have always arrived addressed to someone else. He gave me a bright smile. "So you are Nora?" "Yes." "You look calmer than the group chat predicted." Helena's face changed. "Miles." He raised both hands. "What? Everyone was nervous?" "Everyone?" I asked. He grinned. "Mostly Celeste." Celeste looked down. "Miles, don't..." In the original plot, Nora snapped here. She accused Celeste of turning the family against her before she arrived. Everyone acted shocked, as if the group chat had not already done exactly that. I set my glass down. "That makes sense. Change is uncomfortable." Miles tilted his head. Intrigued? Adrian looked disappointed that I had not misbehaved on schedule. Dinner began. The first trap was soup. In the novel, Nora did not know which spoon to use. Celeste gently corrected her in front of everyone. Nora felt humiliated, snapped that she did not need lessons from a fake daughter, and Helena cried again. The scene proved Nora was vulgar, and Celeste was patient. I looked at the place setting. 3 spoons. I had no idea which one was correct. So before anyone could watch me choose wrong, I turned to the butler. "Mr. Sloane, I grew up eating at a kitchen table with 1 spoon. Which one should I use first?" The room froze. Mr. Sloane recovered quickly. The outer right spoon, Miss Ellis. Thank you. I picked it up. Miles laughed. Not cruelly. That was direct. It was a spoon, I said, not a moral test. For some reason, that made him laugh harder. Adrian did not. Celeste smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. The system sounded in my head again. Plot node disrupted. Dining etiquette humiliation failed. Current deviation, 18%. Penalty warning. Celeste Harrington anxiety increased. How tragic. I ate my soup. The second trap came with the fish course. Helena asked gently. Nora, your foster mother runs a laundromat, correct? In the original plot. Nora flushed with shame. Celeste spoke up, saying work was honorable, and everyone praised her kindness. Nora then accused Celeste of pitying her. This time, I wiped my mouth and answered clearly. She owns a tailoring and repair shop. She also handles laundry for several hotels because fabric care pays better in bulk. Her name is Grace Ellis. Helena's face softened in a way that made me careful. Grace must have worked very hard. She did, Celeste said gently. You must miss her. I called her from the car. Another pause. Victor looked up. You did? Yes. In the novel, Nora slowly distanced herself from Grace because she wanted to belong to the Harringtons. That made it easy for Celeste to isolate her. Grace died alone later in the story after a medical emergency. No one told Nora about until too late. That would not happen here. I took another bite of fish. I will visit her this weekend. Helena's hand tightened around her fork. Already? She raised me for 19 years. No one had a graceful answer to that. Celeste saved them by touching Helena's sleeve. Mother, of course Nora should visit. Aunt Grace must be lonely. Aunt Grace? The word slid into the room like perfume over smoke. In the original plot, Nora hated hearing Celeste call her foster mother Aunt Grace. She felt robbed of the only mother who had loved her. She shouted. Celeste cried. Helena decided Nora was possessive. I looked at Celeste and smiled. That is generous. I will ask Grace what she prefers to be called by people she has not met. Miles coughed into his napkin. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Celeste's smile thinned. Helena said, Nora, Celeste meant well. I am sure she did. I said, names still belong to the people who answer to them. For the first time that night, Victor looked at me with something like interest. Not affection. Interest. In this house, that was safer. After dinner, Helena suggested we all move to the music room. My stomach sank because I knew this scene. Celeste would play piano beautifully. Helena would ask whether Nora played anything. Nora, who played violin, but had sold her instrument to help Grace with rent, would admit she no longer practiced. Celeste would offer to lend her one, making Nora look poor and bitter at once. The music room was warm, gold-lit, and cruelly perfect. A black grand piano stood near the window. Celeste sat and played a soft piece I recognized from the novel because the author described it for 2 pages as proof of her refined soul. She played well. I could admit that. When she finished, everyone praised her. Then Helena turned to me. Nora, do you play? There it was. I said, violin. Not currently. Celeste's eyes brightened with sympathy. We have several instruments here. You can use any of them. Thank you, I said, but I will wait until I can buy back the one I sold. Helena looked stricken. You sold your violin? Yes, Grace needed surgery 2 years ago. The room shifted. Not toward pity exactly, toward discomfort. Comfortable people prefer sacrifice when it stays abstract. Adrian spoke for the first time directly to me. Why didn't you ask for help? I looked at him. From whom? He had no answer. Because 2 years ago, the Harringtons had been celebrating Celeste's birthday in France. 2 years ago, I was no one to them. Celeste lowered her eyes. I am sorry, I did not know. Of course not, I said. We had not met. The sentence was polite. The silence after it was not. That night, in the East Guest Suite, I sat by the window and wrote down everything I remembered from the novel. Trap 1, foyer accusation. Avoided. Trap 2, dinner etiquette. Avoided. Trap 3, foster mother insult. Redirected. Trap 4, music room pity. Neutralized. Upcoming major events. School transfer rumor. Lake incident. Charity gala bracelet theft. Birthday banquet, DNA reveal. Engagement rumor. Grace's medical emergency. The system whispered, warning, excessive plot deviation may trigger corrective events. I looked out at the Harrington Gardens, silver under the moon. Then correct faster, I said softly. I am not here to suffer politely. Part 3. The school rumor I killed before lunch. The Harringtons wanted me to wait until term break before transferring schools. I refused. Not loudly. Loud refusal would have been useful to them. I refused with a written request. 3 practical reasons, and 1 copy sent to Victor, Helena, and Mr. Sloan, so no one could later say I had misunderstood. Reason 1, delaying the transfer would create more public speculation. Reason 2, my existing scholarship exams were tied to the current term. Reason 3, I would not accept a placement arranged through donation without an academic assessment. Victor read the email at breakfast and looked at me over his coffee. You want to take the entrance assessment? Yes. Adrian, who had stopped by before work, said, that school is competitive. Then the assessment should reveal whether I belong there. Helena looked worried. Nora, you do not have to prove yourself immediately. I agree. That is why I want a test instead of a favor. Celeste stirred her tea. Maplehurst Academy can be difficult socially. People there can be unkind. Translation, I already have friends there. I smiled. Then I should learn quickly. Miles, half asleep over toast, muttered. I like her. Adrian ignored him. The assessment was scheduled for Wednesday. In the original plot, Nora entered Maplehurst through a special family arrangement and was placed directly into Celeste's honors class. Students whispered that she was a charity case with a rich surname. Celeste tried to help her by explaining basic rules in front of everyone. Nora snapped by the end of the week. A rumor spread that Nora had stolen a scholarship spot from a poorer student. This time, I took the test in a quiet office with 2 proctors and a camera in the corner. Math was brutal. English was easy. History was strange because apparently this world had 3 prime ministers I had never heard of. When the results came back, I placed in the standard senior class with advanced English and economics, remedial math support, and no scholarship because my legal financial status was under review. Perfect. Nothing glamorous. Nothing fake. Nothing Celeste could weaponize without looking ridiculous. On Friday morning, I entered Maplehurst Academy. The school looked like a brochure for inherited pressure. Red brick buildings, manicured lawns, students in navy blazers pretending not to stare. Celeste waited near the main steps with 2 girls. One was Tessa Ward, her closest friend and professional defender. In the novel, Tessa said every cruel thing Celeste was too delicate to say. The other was June Park, student council secretary, photographer, gossip distributor, and future author of several anonymous posts about Nora's supposed violence. Celeste smiled when she saw me. "Nora, I can show you around." "Thank you, but the office assigned a peer guide." Her smile paused. "Oh, who? Nina Patel?" Tessa laughed. "Nina? She barely talks." "That seems restful." June's eyes widened. Celeste recovered. "Of course, Nina is very smart." The peer guide arrived 2 minutes later. Nina Patel wore glasses, carried 3 notebooks, and looked at me like she had already decided I would be tiring. "Nora Ellis?" "Yes." "Follow me. I have 7 minutes before physics." "Excellent." Nina showed me the office, classrooms, library, cafeteria, and emergency exits with the efficiency of someone who valued information more than bonding. At the end, she handed me a printed schedule. "Do you have questions?" Who should I avoid? For the first time, she looked interested. "That depends. Academically, socially, or legally?" "All 3. Nina adjusted her glasses. "Academically, Mr. Blake, if you have not read ahead. Socially, Tessa Ward, if you dislike public humiliation. Legally, anyone who says they are just asking questions while recording." I smiled. "Useful. You are less dramatic than expected." "I am trying to disappoint people efficiently." Nina blinked once. Then she said, "Sit behind me in economics. The chair does not wobble." That was how I made my first ally. The rumor began before lunch. It was subtle at first. 2 girls whispering near the lockers. A boy asking whether I really had a driver before I had an official student ID. Someone in the cafeteria saying, just loudly enough, that need-based scholarship funds should go to students who actually needed them. In the original plot, Nora tried to ignore it until Tessa cornered her in class. I did not wait. At 12:05, I walked to the administration office and requested a written statement confirming my transfer category, scholarship status, and assessment placement. The secretary looked surprised. "Is there a problem?" "A rumor is forming. I prefer killing it while it is small." She stared at me for 1 second. Then she printed the document. At 12:18, I found Tessa Ward holding court at the cafeteria table beside Celeste. Tessa was saying, "I just think it is strange how some people suddenly become rich and still take resources." Celeste touched her arm. "Tessa, please, we do not know the whole situation." The sentence was poison dipped in honey. I walked up to the table. "Now you can..." I placed the document in front of Tessa. Several students leaned in. Tessa frowned. "What is this?" "My transfer record. I took the assessment. I did not receive a scholarship. I am not in Celeste's honors class. I am in standard senior placement with remedial math." Someone laughed softly at the last line. Not at me. At the bluntness, Tessa's face reddened. "I never said your name." "Then this should relieve you." Celeste stood quickly. "Nora, Tessa did not mean to hurt you. She was only worried because another student lost financial aid last year." "Which student?" Celeste paused. "I do not remember the name." "Then we should not use an unnamed student as a weapon in a conversation about my records." The cafeteria went quiet. June's phone was in her hand. I looked at it. "If you are recording, please capture the paper clearly. I dislike blurry evidence." June lowered the phone. Nina Patel, sitting 2 tables away, said without looking up from her lunch, "Too late. I got it." That was when I decided I truly liked her. The system chimed. Plot node disrupted. Scholarship rumor failed. Current deviation, 29%. Corrective event pending. Of course. Stories hate losing their favorite weapon. That afternoon, the corrective event arrived in the form of a missing bracelet. Celeste's diamond bracelet, a birthday gift from Helena, vanished during gym period. In the original plot, it appeared in Nora's locker. So before gym, I placed my phone on live stream to a private cloud folder and recorded myself opening my empty locker, placing my bag inside, closing it, and locking it. Then I asked Nina to choose the password. She stared at me. Why? Because something expensive is about to go missing. She did not ask whether I was joking. She chose 4,927. At 3:10, Tessa screamed in the locker hall. Celeste's bracelet is in Nora's locker. Students rushed over. Celeste stood pale and stricken. No, please, don't accuse her. Maybe someone else. The gym teacher opened my locker with the master key. There it was, a diamond bracelet on top of my bag. Everyone turned to me. In the original plot, Nora shouted that she was framed. She looked guilty because guilty people and innocent people both panic when cornered. I said, "Please call the office." Tessa blinked. What? And campus security. Also, Nina has the password I used, and I have a video of the locker before gym. Celeste's face changed. Tiny, but I saw it. Nina lifted her phone. Already sent to the office. Campus security reviewed the hallway footage before dismissal. The bracelet had been slipped into my locker by June Park. June cried. Tessa shouted. Celeste went white. June insisted Celeste had nothing to do with it. That was expected. But the footage also showed Celeste speaking to June beside the stairwell, 2 minutes before June entered the locker hall. Not proof. Not yet. Enough to make people think? That was better. On the ride home, Helena sat beside me in tense silence. Victor had sent the car after the school called him. Finally, she said, "This is very distressing." Yes. Celeste says she had no idea. I heard. Do you believe her? I looked out the window. Do you want my honest answer or the answer that keeps dinner comfortable? Helena said nothing. So I said nothing too. That evening, Celeste knocked on my door. She wore white because of course she did. Nora, she said, voice trembling. I am so sorry about today. June misunderstood something I said. What did you say? I said I was worried you might feel pressure to fit in. And she interpreted that as putting your bracelet in my locker? Tears filled her eyes. You think I planned it? I think people who benefit from accidents should be careful how often accidents happen. She stared at me. For the first time, she forgot to look sad. You are not what I expected, she said. Neither are you, I lied. I knew exactly what she was. I had read the book. Part 4, I refused to stand near the lake. The lake incident was supposed to happen on my second Sunday at Harrington Estate. I knew because the novel treated it like a major turning point. The family hosted a small garden brunch. Celeste invited Nora to walk by the lake as sisters. Celeste slipped, fell into the shallow water, and emerged coughing while Tessa screamed that Nora had pushed her. There was no camera by the lake. There were, however, many witnesses at just enough distance to see shapes and not details. After that, Adrian decided Nora was dangerous. In the original plot, he told Victor that blood did not excuse cruelty. Helena cried for 3 days. Miles avoided Nora because he felt awkward. Celeste wore a pale blue scarf and accepted everyone's concern. So when Helena announced a Sunday garden brunch, I prepared. First, I called Grace. If anyone from the Harrington family calls you saying I am upset, unstable, or refusing contact, Ignore them unless you hear it from me directly. Grace was silent for a second. Nora, what is happening? A rich family. That is not an answer. It is the category. She sighed. Do you need me there? My throat tightened. In the novel. Nora slowly stopped calling Grace because she wanted to prove she belonged with the Harringtons. I had no intention of making that mistake. Not yet, I said, but keep your phone on. Always. Second, I asked Mr. Sloan for a map of the estate's public areas. He raised one brow. For exercise? For avoiding ponds? He looked at me for a long moment. The lake path is considered scenic. So are cliffs. I avoid those too. His mouth twitched. Mr. Sloan had begun to like me, I thought. In the cautious way staff like someone who says thank you and does not create extra work. Third, I sent an email to Helena before brunch. Mrs. Harrington. For clarity, I am not comfortable walking alone with any family member or guest near water. Isolated garden paths, balconies, staircases, or other areas without clear witnesses until the household adjustment period has stabilized. Thank you for understanding. Nora Ellis. I copied Victor. And Adrian? And Mr. Sloan? Then I went to brunch. The garden looked like a wedding advertisement. White tents, lemon trees in blue pots, waiters carrying silver trays, women in soft dresses pretending not to stare at me. Celeste glowed in pale yellow. Tessa and June were not invited after the bracelet incident, which meant Celeste had to do her own work. She approached me near the tea table. Nora, can we talk? Here? She glanced around. Maybe somewhere quieter. I prefer here. Her smile tightened. There are things I want to say privately. Then write them. Miles, standing nearby with a plate of strawberries. Choked. Celeste's eyes shone. You really hate me. There it was again. The sentence that made any boundary sound like violence. I picked up a teacup. No, Celeste, I do not trust you. Those are different things. Adrian heard that. Of course he did. He walked over, jaw tight. Nora, Celeste is trying to get me somewhere quieter? Because every conversation between you two becomes public. Then maybe she should stop starting them in public. Celeste whispered. I only wanted to walk by the lake. Grandma used to say the lake calmed her. In the novel, this line sounded sweet. In real life, after the email I had sent that morning, it sounded like a loaded gun. Adrian looked at me. You are refusing to take a walk? Correct. Why? Because I already sent the family an email explaining I will not be alone near water. Isolated paths, balconies, or staircases during this transition. Miles grinned. That was oddly specific. Specificity prevents confusion. Victor approached, having heard enough to worry about tone rather than truth. What is going on? Adrian said, Nora refuses to walk with Celeste. I said, Celeste invited me to the lake after receiving my written boundary about isolated areas and water. Victor looked at Celeste. That look was small, but it was new. Celeste's eyes filled instantly. I did not think of it that way. I only wanted us to have a peaceful talk. Then have it at the table, I said. She lowered her head. I am sorry, I keep doing everything wrong. Helena rushed over. No, darling, you are under so much pressure. Darling. Not Nora, who had been almost framed for theft 3 days earlier. Darling. The system whispered, Corrective lake event blocked. Plot pressure increasing. I sipped my tea. Good. Let it press. Pressure reveals cracks. The substitute event happened an hour later. A waiter tripped near the terrace and spilled red wine down the front of Celeste's yellow dress. Celeste gasped. The waiter turned pale. Helena hurried forward. Adrian snapped for towels. And someone behind me whispered. Nora moved his tray. I did not turn immediately. In the original plot, Nora always turned too fast. Panic makes innocent people look like they are searching for escape. I set down my teacup. Then I looked. The whisperer was a cousin named Bianca, who had appeared in 3 chapters of the novel for the sole purpose of making Nora miserable at parties. I asked, "Did you see me touch the tray?" Bianca flushed. "I saw you near him." Near is not touch. You hate Celeste. That is not evidence either. Miles said, "She has a point." Adrian shot him a look. I turned to the waiter. What happened? The young man looked terrified. The stone edge. Miss, my shoe caught. Bianca crossed her arms. Of course he would say that. Staff protect guests. Mr. Sloane appeared as if summoned by professional insult. Staff protect facts. Miss Bianca, the terrace camera faces this section. Bianca went pale. Celeste clutched a towel to her dress. It is fine. It was an accident. Then the camera will show that, I said. The camera did. The waiter tripped on a raised stone edge. I was 3 feet away, holding a teacup. Bianca apologized to Celeste, not to me. That was fine. I did not need her apology. I needed the family to watch one more accusation collapse. That evening, Miles found me in the library. You really did expect something by the lake. I looked up from my notebook. Yes. Why? Pattern recognition? He sat across from me without asking, which was annoying but not surprising. Do I want to know what pattern? Probably not. He studied me. Celeste was not like this before. Before what? Before you came. I closed the notebook. That is what everyone wants to believe, that people become cruel because the person they hurt arrived. It is more comfortable than admitting the cruelty was waiting for an opportunity. Miles looked toward the door. I think she is scared. I think she is too. That matters. It explains, it does not excuse. For once, Miles did not joke. Adrian thinks you are trying to turn us against her. No, I said. I am trying to stop her from turning everyone against me. He nodded slowly. The system chimed. Unexpected relational shift. Miles Harrington sympathy unstable. Current deviation, 41%. I almost smiled. Unstable sympathy was still better than stable hostility. Part 5. The banquet where Celeste chose the wrong script. The Harrington Foundation banquet was the first public event after my return. In the original plot, it ruined Nora completely. The family introduced her as the recovered biological daughter. Celeste wore a white gown and acted supportive. A donor's diamond brooch disappeared. It was found in Nora's clutch. Nora screamed that Celeste framed her. Reporters caught the scene. By morning, headlines called her the bitter real heiress. The banquet was also where Adrian decided to send Nora away for treatment. I had no intention of attending unprepared. 3 days before the banquet, I bought my own clutch with cash from my old savings account. Not Harrington money, not a family stylist, not a gift from Helena. A plain black clutch with a visible zipper and no inner pocket. Then I photographed it empty from every angle, placed a small tracker inside the lining, and asked Nina to hold the receipt. Nina stared at me over video call. Your life is exhausting. Yes. Do you want me at this banquet? You were not invited. That was not my question. I smiled. You would hate it. I hate many things while being useful. That was how Nina ended up volunteering as a student photographer through the school newspaper, which had been asked to cover the foundation's education grants. On the night of the banquet, Helena sent a stylist to my room. The stylist brought 3 gowns. One was pale blue, which made me look washed out. One was white, which was Celeste's color for public innocence. One was deep green. In the novel, Nora chose red because she wanted to look bold and was mocked for being attention-hungry. I chose green. The stylist looked relieved. Excellent choice, Miss Ellis. Why? It does not compete. Honest. I liked her. The banquet hall glittered with chandeliers, flowers, cameras, donors, and carefully managed generosity. The Harrington Foundation funded hospitals, arts programs, and scholarships, which sounded noble until you realized every grant came with a photographer. Victor introduced me to board members. My biological daughter, Nora. Not my daughter. My biological daughter. A correction, not an embrace. I shook hands anyway. Helena hovered near Celeste, who wore white silk and a diamond hairpin shaped like a small star. Adrian stood beside them, protective as a locked gate. Miles drifted between groups, stealing appetizers and watching everything. At 8, Victor took the stage. He spoke about family, resilience, truth, and the Foundation's duty to children whose beginnings were difficult. The speech was elegant, which meant someone else had written it. Then he invited Celeste and me to join him. The room applauded. Celeste reached for my hand. In the original plot, Nora pulled away. This time, I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. For the cameras, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I am glad you are home," she whispered. The microphone did not catch it, but Nina's camera might. I replied just as softly. "Then stop trying to send me away." Her smile did not move, but her hand tightened hard enough to hurt. After the applause, the missing brooch event began exactly on schedule. Mrs. Albright, a donor with a diamond brooch the size of a small bird, suddenly gasped near the dessert table. "My brooch, it is gone." The room stirred. Staff began searching. Adrian went into crisis mode. Helena looked terrified. Celeste touched her bare throat as if imagining the pain of losing jewelry. And Tessa Ward, somehow invited as Celeste's friend, said loudly, "Nora was just near Mrs. Albright. Beautiful. Predictable. Lazy." Adrian looked at me. I held up my clutch. "Would you like to search it?" That threw him off. "No one accused you," Tessa said. "I only said you were nearby." "Nearby is popular tonight," I said. "Let's save time." I placed my clutch on the nearest table and stepped back. "Mr. Sloan, would you open it? In front of witnesses?" The butler's face revealed nothing, but I sensed approval in the speed with which he moved. He opened the clutch, empty except for lipstick, phone, ID, and one small tracker card. No brooch. Tessa's face fell. Then my phone buzzed. Tracker alert. Movement detected. The clutch had been opened 15 minutes earlier. Location logged. North Service Corridor. I looked across the room. Celeste stood very still. Not afraid yet. Only recalculating. I said, "The clutch was opened earlier near the North Service Corridor. The tracker logged it." Adrian frowned. "Why does your clutch have a tracker?" "Because expensive things keep appearing near me." Miles laughed once, then covered it badly with a cough. Security checked the North Corridor footage. This time, the person caught on camera was not June. It was Tessa. She opened my clutch, looked inside. and then turned away sharply because there was no inner pocket to hide anything in. The brooch was later found in a floral arrangement near the dessert table. Tessa cried. Celeste cried harder. Mrs. Albright demanded to know whether the foundation usually invited thieves. Victor looked like he wanted the floor to swallow all of us. Adrian watched the footage twice. Then he looked at Celeste. Did you know? Celeste's face crumpled. How could you ask me that? In the original plot, that sentence ended the conversation. This time, Adrian did not apologize. Not immediately. That was new. The system hissed. Major plot node failed, corrective force escalating. I looked toward the cameras, the donors, the Harrington family portrait projected above the stage. Escalate. Then, the script was running out of places to hide. Part 6. The DNA file under the birthday cake. The final major trap was supposed to happen at Celeste's birthday banquet. It was the cruelest scene in the novel. By then, Nora's reputation had been destroyed. The family viewed her as unstable. Grace had suffered a stroke after being pressured by reporters, and no one told Nora until too late. Celeste's birthday became a public celebration of the daughter who stayed kind. During the banquet, Nora found the original DNA file proving Celeste had known the truth for months. When Nora tried to reveal it, Celeste collapsed, and everyone accused Nora of attacking her on her birthday. The file vanished. Nora was sent away. I read that chapter at 2 a.m. and wrote, in a comment no one would ever see, "Why does nobody make copies?" Now I made copies. The first step was Grace. I moved her medical care before the plot could touch her. Victor did not like it when I asked for a private family driver to take me to Grace's shop every Saturday. Helena said it might look confusing publicly if I spent too much time with my foster mother during the transition. Confusing to whom, I asked. She did not answer. I arranged it myself. Grace's shop sat between a bakery and a locksmith in the old district. When I walked in, she looked me over once and said, "You are eating less. Good to see you too. Rich people feed you decorative food." Accurate. She hugged me hard. For the first time since waking up in Nora's life, I let someone hold me without planning an exit. Then I told her enough. Not about systems or novels. That would sound insane. But about the bracelet, the lake invitation, the banquet, the rumors, and my suspicion that someone might try to pressure her. Grace listened without interrupting. Then she locked the shop door, took out a metal cash box, and removed a folder. I wondered when you would need this. Inside was a copy of the hospital audit letter, the one confirming the switch, and a second document I had not expected. A private investigator's report. I looked up. Grace's face was calm. I knew something was wrong years ago. What? When you were 14, a woman came to the shop. She said she worked for the Harringtons. She asked whether I would ever consider letting you reconnect with your true level of life if evidence appeared. My blood went cold. Celeste? No. Older. A secretary. Maybe. I told her my daughter was not a coat to be returned to a better closet. I had to sit down. Grace continued. After she left, I hired someone. It took years. I did not have Harrington money, but I had enough to learn that the hospital had buried a records discrepancy. Why didn't you tell me? Pain crossed her face. Because the report was incomplete, and you were 17. And I was afraid they would take you before I knew how to protect you. For once, fear sounded like love instead of an excuse. I touched the folder. Can I copy this? I made 3 copies before you arrived. That was my mother. Not by blood, by every definition that mattered. The second step was the birthday banquet guest list. Celeste's birthday had always been treated like a minor national holiday. Helena planned it for weeks. White flowers, silver ribbons, a 5-tier cake, a video montage of Celeste growing up Harrington. This year, the banquet would also include me. Helena called it a symbolic sisterhood moment. I called Nina. Do you have plans next Saturday? I was going to experience peace. Cancel it. She sighed. What am I photographing now? A birthday party. I hate birthday parties. There may be a public DNA reveal. I will bring extra batteries. The third step was the file. In the novel, the original DNA file was hidden in Celeste's old music box and placed under the birthday cake table by accident during party setup. Ridiculous, but useful. Celeste found Nora holding it, screamed, and claimed Nora had stolen from her room. So I went to Celeste's room before the banquet. Not to steal, to ask. She opened the door in a silk robe, surrounded by gift boxes. Nora, do you have the original hospital audit file? Her face went blank. For 1 second, I saw the true Celeste again. Then she laughed softly. Why would I have that? Because in every version of this story, you know more than you admit. Her eyes narrowed. What story? The one where everyone keeps mistaking your fear for innocence. She stepped into the hall and closed the door behind her. You think you are so different from me. I am... No, you're just calmer. If you had my life for 19 years, you would fight to keep it too. There it was. The closest she had come to truth. Maybe, I said, but I would not put a bracelet in your locker. Her mouth tightened. I did not do that. No, you only created weather and acted surprised when people got wet. For once, Celeste did not cry. They will never love you the way they love me, she said. It should have hurt. Maybe it would have, if I had not already called Grace that morning and heard her ask whether I had eaten breakfast. That is their failure, I said. Not my assignment. I walked away. At the birthday banquet, Celeste wore silver, not white. Interesting. White was innocence. Silver was visibility. She wanted to shine. The ballroom was filled with donors, classmates, relatives, and reporters from 2 society magazines. A slideshow of Celeste's childhood played above the stage. Celeste at piano recitals. Celeste at charity events. Celeste beside Helena in matching dresses. Celeste blowing out candles under chandeliers. 19 years of a life that should not have been mine, but could have included mine, if the adults had been honest. That was the quiet tragedy beneath the drama. Celeste did not have to lose everything for me to have something. The family made it a war because war let them avoid accountability. The cake was rolled out at 9. 5 tiers, silver ribbons, tiny sugar stars. Beneath the cake table sat 3 decorative boxes from Celeste's childhood display. One of them was a music box. Of course. The system whispered, "Major plot node approaching. Original Nora Ellis must seize evidence and create public conflict." I did not move. Celeste watched me from the stage. She expected me to take the bait. I smiled and stayed beside Nina. At 9:12, a maid adjusting the display knocked the music box sideways. It fell open. A brown envelope slid halfway out. Several people saw it. Not me first. That mattered. Miles, of all people, picked it up. Celeste, something fell. Celeste went pale. Leave it! Too late. Nina's camera clicked. Adrian, standing near the stage, saw Celeste's face. He stepped down. What is it? Celeste reached for the envelope. I said, if it is nothing, open it. The room went quiet. Helena whispered, "Nora, not now." "Exactly," I said. "Not me. Miles found it?" Miles looked between us. Suddenly, understanding he had become a plot device against his will, Adrian took the envelope. Celeste grabbed his sleeve. "Please." That one word did more damage than any accusation I could have made. Adrian opened the envelope. Inside was a hospital audit file and a letter addressed to Celeste 6 months earlier. Nina's camera clicked again. Victor stepped forward. "Adrian." Adrian read silently. His face changed line by line. Helena reached for the back of a chair. Celeste began to cry. But this time, no one moved to comfort her. Adrian looked at her. "You knew." Celeste shook her head. "I was scared." Miles whispered, "Oh, hell." Victor's voice was low. "Celeste." She turned to Helena. "Mother, please, I was going to tell you." In the novel, that would have saved her. In this room, after the bracelet, the lake invitation, the brooch, and the public file, it sounded like what it was. Too late. I stepped back, not forward. That was important. I would not be framed as the attacker in my own revelation. Adrian looked at me. For the first time, there was no accusation in his eyes, only the beginning of shame. "Did you know this existed?" he asked. I suspected. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because when I say things, this family hears tone before truth." No one answered. The system shrieked. Core plot collapse. Original conflict route unavailable. Current deviation, 73%. For the first time, the system sounded afraid. Part 7, breaking the plot, was not the same as being loved. After Celeste's birthday banquet, the Harrington family stopped pretending the transition was delicate. It became legal. That was better. Legal was clean, in a way family was not. Legal asked who knew what, when, and where the documents were. Legal did not care whether Celeste cried prettily. Legal did not care whether Helena felt torn. Legal did not ask me to be generous before anyone admitted what had been taken. Victor hired a crisis team. Adrian requested a private meeting with me. Helena stayed in her room for 2 days. Miles sent me one text. "Do you need anything?" I wrote back, "A quiet week?" He replied, "Impossible, but I respect the ambition." Celeste left the estate to stay with an aunt. Society magazines called it exhaustion. Nina called it strategic retreat. Grace called it what people with money do before consequences find the correct address. The system did not speak for 3 days. I almost missed it. Almost. On the 4th day, Adrian found me in the library. He looked tired. Good. Tired people sometimes become honest because performance requires energy. "May I sit?" he asked. "You live here?" That is not what I asked. I gestured to the chair. He sat across from me. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I owe you an apology." In the original plot, Nora would have cried from relief. She wanted Adrian's approval more than anyone's because he had been the coldest. His apology would have felt like sunlight after months underground. I closed the book in front of me. "For which part?" He flinched. "Good. Specificity prevents cheap forgiveness. For assuming you were hostile from the beginning," he said. "For protecting Celeste without asking what she was doing. For treating your calm as calculation and her tears as evidence." Not bad. Anything else? His jaw tightened, then relaxed. "For asking why you did not ask us for help when your mother needed surgery." That one surprised me. He looked down. I heard myself after I said it. And I sounded like an idiot. I almost smiled. Almost. A rich idiot, I said. He nodded. Yes. The apology sat between us. It was better than I expected, and still not enough to erase anything. Both things could be true. I accept that you said it, I told him. He looked up. But not the apology? I am not sure yet. I am trying not to confuse relief with trust. Adrian absorbed that. Fair. Outside the library windows, gardeners trimmed hedges shaped like animals no one had asked for. The estate looked peaceful because estates always do. They are built to hide the cost of their peace. Adrian said, Father wants to issue a correction, publicly. He wants you included. Included how? As his daughter. There it was. The word I had avoided in the foyer. Daughter. It did not feel the way I thought it might. It did not fill the room with music. It did not heal 19 years. It did not erase Grace's tired hands or Celeste's envelope or Helena's hesitation. It was a word. Words matter, but only when behavior follows them. Tell Victor I will review the draft. Adrian nodded. Mother wants to see you. I am sure she does. Will you? Not today. He stood. At the door, he paused. Nora. I looked at him. I do not expect you to see me as a brother. Good. But if you ever need one. Do not finish that sentence, I said. He stopped. Then, strangely, he smiled. Fair. After he left, the system returned. Final correction route available. Original ending may be restored through reconciliation collapse. Recommended action. Confront Celeste privately. I laughed out loud. No, absolutely not. The original Nora died because she kept entering private rooms with people who benefited from misunderstanding her. I called Nina instead. Are you free tomorrow? Emotionally, no. Logistically, yes. I need a witness. That is the closest you have ever come to saying you value me. Do not make it weird. The next day, Celeste requested a meeting. Through lawyers. Progress. We met in a conference room at Harrington Foundation headquarters. Her aunt sat outside. Adrian sat beside me. Nina sat behind me as documentation support, a title she invented and wore with terrifying seriousness. Celeste looked thinner. No white dress, no silver, navy cardigan, bare face, hands clasped. I am sorry, she said. I waited. She swallowed. I knew about the switch before you arrived. Not years before. 6 months. I found the letter. I told myself I was waiting for the right time, but I was really waiting for something to make it unnecessary. Honest so far. The bracelet, I asked. I told June I was afraid you hated me. I said if people saw you as unstable early, maybe everyone would be more careful around me. I did not tell her to put the bracelet there. But you knew she might do something. Yes. The brooch? She closed her eyes. Tessa wanted to scare you. I did not stop her. The lake? I thought if you refused, Adrian would think you were cruel. If you came... Her voice broke. I don't know what I would have done. At least she did not insult me by saying nothing. I looked at her for a long moment. Why? She gave the answer everyone always gave. I was scared. This time, I did not let it pass. Scared is a feeling. I asked for a reason. Celeste's tears fell, but she did not perform them. She wiped them with the back of her hand like she was tired of herself. Because I thought love was a house with one room. If you came in, I would be put outside. There it was. Sad, small, Not enough. Grace had one room, I said. She still made space for me. Celeste looked down. I know. I believed that she did. That did not mean I trusted her. By the end of the meeting, Celeste agreed to a written public statement. She would admit she had known about the audit file before my arrival. She would withdraw from the Foundation's youth ambassador role. She would attend counseling. She would not contact Grace. She would not speak about me publicly without approval from both legal teams. Was it satisfying? Not in the dramatic way. No one slapped her. No one dragged her out. No one screamed that she was fake in front of chandeliers. But the statement went out the next morning. And for the first time, the world heard a version of the story that did not require me to be a villain. The system spoke one last time. Final plot route failed. Original Nora Ellis ending inaccessible. Deviation 100%. Narrative control lost. I waited for fireworks. There were none. Just silence. Then Nina looked up from her phone and said, "Your public sentiment is improving. Is that good? For a person, irrelevant. For a scandal, useful." I smiled. Grace came to Harrington Estate 1 week later. Helena tried to receive her in the formal sitting room. Grace took one look at the room and said, "No, thank you. I prefer kitchens. People lie less when there are dishes." I loved her so much in that moment that it hurt. We sat in the kitchen with tea. Helena looked uncomfortable at first. Then, human. Victor joined us for exactly 12 minutes, said several careful things, and left when Grace asked whether he had ever personally folded a fitted sheet. Miles adored her immediately. Adrian respected her by the end of the hour. Helena cried once. Grace handed her a napkin and said, "Crying is fine. Asking the child to fix it is not." After that, Helena cried less. Months passed. The Harringtons issued the legal correction. My name became Nora Harrington Ellis because I refused to drop Grace's name. Maplehurst stopped whispering after midterms. Mostly because I scored high enough in economics to become useful in study groups and low enough in math to remain human. Nina stayed my friend. Miles became my unofficial source of family gossip. Adrian kept apologizing through actions, which was less annoying than words. Helena learned to ask before touching my hair. Victor learned that an arrangement was not the same as a relationship. Celeste returned eventually, but not to her old room. She moved into the guest wing while the family figured out what love looked like without lies holding it together. Sometimes we passed each other in the hall. We were polite. Politeness was not forgiveness, but it was better than theater. One evening, I stood in the music room alone. My old violin, bought back by Grace and repaired by a craftsman Adrian found, rested in its case. I lifted it carefully. The first note sounded terrible, truly awful. Miles, passing the door, winced. Was that supposed to happen? Leave. Gladly. I tried again. The second note was less terrible. That was enough. Breaking the plot did not make me instantly loved. It did not turn the Harringtons into perfect parents, or Celeste into a harmless sister. It did not erase the years Grace and I survived without them. It did not give the original Nora back the life the book stole from her. But it did something better than the story allowed. It gave me choices. I could choose when to speak, when to leave, who to trust, which name to use, which room to enter, which family deserved the word. The original plot wanted me broken because broken girls are easy to explain, jealous, ungrateful, too emotional, too poor, too hungry for love. I was hungry, yes, but not enough to eat poison and call it dinner. The last time the system flickered, it did not speak. A single line appeared in my mind like text on a dying screen. No active plot remains. For a long time, I sat with that sentence. Then I laughed. Not loudly. Not bitterly. Freely. The next morning, I visited Grace at the shop. She was hemming a wedding dress and scolding a bride for crash dieting during fittings. When she saw me, she pointed to the back room. Soup. It is 9 in the morning. Soup does not check the clock. I sat at the small table, ate from a chipped bowl, and listened to the sewing machines hum. No chandeliers.
No cameras.
No one waiting for me to cry on cue. Grace sat across from me. You look lighter. The plot died. She stared.
What?
Nothing. Rich people made you strange. I was strange before. True. We laughed together.
And for the first time since I opened my eyes in that car, I did not feel like a character trying to survive someone else's ending.
I felt like a girl with a name, a mother, a future, and a badly tuned violin waiting at home. The story had expected me to break down, so I broke the plot instead. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next story.